Chosen one, what if I told you that one wrong move could cost you everything? That there is something God is warning you not to do, no matter how tempting it is? You have been set apart, chosen for a higher purpose, but with that calling comes great responsibility. There are things the world may do without consequence, but for you, the cost is different. One mistake can derail your entire destiny. This is not just a warning, it is a wake-up call. If you are watching this, know that God is speaking to you right now. Chosen one, you are not like everyone else. You were never meant to fit in, never meant to follow the crowd. God has placed something special inside of you, and because of that, you are held to a higher standard. But the enemy knows this too. He has set traps before you, disguised as opportunities, temptations, and shortcuts that promise to make your life easier. But what they don't tell you is that these shortcuts come with a cost that could strip you of everything God has prepared for you. There are actions that anger God, choices that lead you straight out of alignment with His plan. And here's the dangerous part. These choices don't always seem obvious. They start small, subtle, almost harmless. But before you know it, you've opened a door that was never meant to be opened. And now you are fighting battles that were never meant to be yours. And most people don't realize their mistake until it's too late. But you will. Today, I am going to reveal the mistakes that destroy destinies, why God holds chosen ones to a higher standard, the signs that warn you before disaster strikes, and the real consequences of ignoring God's voice. If this message resonates with you, like this video and comment 77 below. Let it be known that you are listening, that you are aware, and that you refuse to fall into the enemy's traps. Because by the end of this video, you will have the wisdom to walk forward in power, avoiding the snares designed to steal your purpose. The mistakes that can destroy a chosen one's path. Chosen one, the enemy is not fighting you the same way he fights others. His tactics against you are not obvious, not blatant, not easily detected. He knows that a direct attack won't work because you are already covered by divine favor. So instead, he uses something more subtle, something more dangerous: compromise. It starts small, almost unnoticeable, like a whisper in your mind telling you that just this once won't hurt, that this little decision won't matter, that you can step slightly out of alignment and everything will still be okay. But what seems small at first becomes a seed, and that seed grows into a pattern. Before you even realize it, you are no longer walking in your purpose, no longer standing in divine authority, no longer as strong as you once were. And that is exactly what he wanted. Because if the enemy can't destroy you outright, he will try to weaken you from within. The most dangerous thing about compromise is that it doesn't feel like an attack. It feels like a choice. You justify it, telling yourself that it's harmless. Maybe it's a relationship you know is pulling you away from God, but you convince yourself it's not that serious. Maybe it's a habit, a mindset, an environment that you feel uneasy about, but instead of walking away, you tell yourself that you can handle it. This is where so many chosen ones fall, not in sudden destruction, but in slow, silent drift. You don't wake up one day and find yourself completely off course. You take small steps in the wrong direction until one day you look up and don't even recognize where you are. This is why you must stay vigilant, why you must guard your choices fiercely, because the enemy's goal is not just to distract you. It is to detour you, to shift your direction just enough so that you never reach your true calling. And if he can get you to settle, to lower your standards, to accept less than what God intended for you, then he has already won half the battle. Look at Samson. He was chosen before he was even born, set apart by God to be a deliverer. His strength was supernatural, his purpose was undeniable, but he made one mistake repeatedly. He compromised. He played with temptation, convinced himself he was still in control, ignored the warning signs. And what happened? Judges 16 verse 20 says, "And she said, 'The Philistines be upon thee, Samson.' And he awoke out of his sleep and said, 'I will go out as at other times before and shake myself.' And he wist not that the Lord was departed from him." That verse should shake you to your core. He didn't even realize that the presence of God had left him. That is how deception works. It doesn't announce itself. It slowly dulls your discernment until the power you once carried is no longer there. You still look the same, but spiritually you are not the same. That's the danger of compromise. It doesn't always show immediate consequences. But when the moment comes where you need your strength, you realize it's gone. But here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. You can break free before it's too late. God always gives his chosen ones a chance to realign before destruction falls. He sends warnings, signs, a sense of unease that tells you something isn't right. And when you recognize it and act immediately, you stop the enemy's plan before it takes root. Some of you watching this right now have already felt that warning. You've noticed how certain situations no longer sit right with your spirit, how certain relationships feel draining instead of life-giving, how something inside you is telling you to move before it's too late. That is your wake-up call. The moment you start to feel that pull, do not ignore it. That is God's way of trying to save you before you end up in a situation that takes years to recover from. When you take a stand, when you say, "I refuse to compromise," you not only protect your purpose, but you restore your authority. And here's what happens when you make that decision. You will notice a shift. Suddenly, the things that used to tempt you no longer have the same hold. The things that used to distract you become clear for what they really are. When you reject compromise, when you refuse to settle, when you choose obedience over convenience, God responds. Doors begin to open. The weight you were carrying lifts. The confusion that was clouding your mind disappears, and clarity returns. You begin to walk with power again, because nothing weakens you faster than compromise, and nothing strengthens you faster than realignment. The enemy loses control over you the moment you refuse to negotiate with his traps. Because when you know who you are, when you know what is at stake, there is nothing and no one that can tempt you to risk your destiny. And this is why you must be relentless about your spiritual discipline, because the moment you stay ready, the enemy loses all access to you. So now the choice is yours. Will you keep justifying the small things, telling yourself they don't matter? Or will you take back your authority and cut off every single thing that is pulling you out of alignment with God? The cost of compromise is too high. The moment you allow it in, you start handing your power over to the enemy little by little, until one day you don't recognize yourself anymore. But you are stronger than that. You are wiser than that. And today, you are being given a chance to step back into your full strength, to refuse the enemy's offers, to reclaim your destiny. If you are ready to stand firm, if you refuse to let compromise steal your calling, comment, "I refuse to compromise" below. Let it be known that you see the enemy's tactics, that you are awake, that you are ready to defend your purpose at any cost. Because from this moment forward, you will never be caught off guard again. Why God holds chosen ones to a higher standard. Chosen one, have you ever wondered why certain things happen to you that don't seem to happen to others? Why is it that the moment you step even slightly out of alignment with God's path, you feel the consequences immediately? Why do others seem to sin freely, live recklessly, and yet face no repercussions, while you can't take a single misstep without feeling the weight of divine discipline? It's because you are not like them. You were never meant to blend in, never meant to follow the crowd, never meant to live without purpose. You carry something greater, a divine calling, a spiritual responsibility. And with that calling comes accountability. The world may get away with things that you cannot. They may walk in rebellion and seem untouched, but the moment you try to follow their ways, everything begins to collapse. That is because you are marked, set apart, chosen for something higher. And when you are chosen, the standard is different. But here's where many struggle. It doesn't seem fair. You see people who have rejected God living freely, prospering, thriving in their sin without consequence. Meanwhile, the moment you step even slightly off track, you feel the correction instantly. You start questioning why your path seems so much harder, why things seem to come with greater struggle, why you are being held to a standard that others are not. And if you're not careful, this can make you resent the calling on your life, can make you feel isolated, misunderstood, and even tempted to rebel against it. But this is where you must shift your mindset. This is not punishment. This is protection. God does not allow you to go too far because He loves you too much to let you destroy what He has called you to do. The reason you feel conviction so quickly, the reason doors shut when you try to walk in disobedience, the reason you cannot force your way into paths that were never meant for you is because God's hand is on your life. And when His hand is on you, He will not let you ruin yourself. In Amos 3 verse 2, God declares, "You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. This scripture is powerful because it shows that when you are set apart, God deals with you differently. He does not discipline you the way he disciplines the world, because you are his. This is not about punishment, it is about preparation. God's correction is not meant to break you. It is meant to mold you, to refine you, to sharpen you into the person he created you to be. When you experience quick correction, when you feel God's discipline so intensely, it is because he is ensuring that you stay on the right path. He is keeping you from heading down roads that would destroy you. He is pulling you back into alignment before you can do irreversible damage to your destiny. And this is why some people do not experience the same correction as you, because they were never meant to carry what you carry. God corrects those whom he calls, and the more you have been entrusted with, the higher the expectation placed upon you. But here's where things start to change. When you embrace this truth, when you stop resisting it, you will notice a shift in your life. The battles that once felt unfair will start to make sense. The struggles that once made you feel isolated will begin to reveal their purpose. You will realize that every moment of correction was God protecting something precious inside of you. You will start to see how the discipline was shaping you, how the closed doors were redirections, how the discomfort was making you stronger, wiser, and more spiritually mature. And here's the most powerful part. When you fully align with God's standard, you unlock divine favor. The same hand that disciplines you is the same hand that will elevate you. The same God who corrects you is the same God who will bless you beyond measure. But he will only release those blessings once he knows you are ready to handle them. This is why the refining process is necessary. Because when you are fully prepared, when you have proven that you can handle the weight of your calling, there will be nothing the enemy can do to stop you. So the real question is, will you keep fighting God's correction, or will you embrace it? Will you keep questioning why your path is different, or will you recognize that being chosen comes with a different level of discipline? Because the moment you surrender to the process, the moment you stop resisting and start allowing God to mold you, your entire life will change. The struggles will not break you, they will refine you. The discipline will not harm you, it will prepare you. And once you step into that alignment fully, you will walk in a level of power, authority, and favor that others will never understand. If you know that God has been calling you to a higher standard, if you recognize that his discipline is for your protection, comment, "I accept God's standard" below. Let it be known that you are ready, that you will no longer resist, that you are stepping fully into your divine calling, no matter the cost. Because when you embrace this truth, nothing and no one can stop what God is about to do in your life. Before I reveal the warning signs that appear before a fall, make sure you subscribe, share this video, and click the super thanks button to support. This message is here to protect you, to keep you aligned, and to stop the enemy's plans before they take root. Now, let's talk about the signs that show you are about to make a dangerous decision. The signs that you are about to make a dangerous decision. Chosen one. Have you ever felt something deep in your spirit telling you that something is off? That subtle but undeniable feeling of unease, the sense that you are standing at a crossroads and one wrong step could send you down a path you were never meant to walk? This is not paranoia. This is not overthinking. This is divine warning. But too often people ignore it. They dismiss it as just another thought, just another wave of anxiety, when in reality, it is God's way of signaling that danger is ahead. You have been given a spiritual radar, a sensitivity that alerts you before disaster strikes. But the real question is, are you listening? Or are you allowing the distractions of the world to drown out the voice of God? Because one thing is certain, nobody falls overnight. There are always signs. And those signs, if ignored, lead to consequences that could have been avoided. The problem is that most people want to believe everything is fine. They don't want to acknowledge the warnings because acknowledging them would require action. It would require walking away from something that feels comfortable. It would mean saying no to something they really want, leaving a situation they've already invested in, breaking ties with people they thought would be in their lives forever. And that is where the struggle comes in. You see the signs, but you convince yourself it's just your imagination. You feel the shift in energy, but you tell yourself you're being too sensitive. You recognize that certain conversations, certain environments, certain decisions don't feel right anymore. But instead of walking away, you linger. You tell yourself that maybe, just maybe, things will change. But deep down, you already know the truth. Because when God sends a warning, He does not send it in confusion. He sends it in clarity. That persistent uneasiness, that deep conviction, that sudden feeling that something is not right, that is God's way of trying to save you before it's too late. In Habakkuk 2 verse 1, the prophet says, "I will stand upon my watch and set me upon the tower, and will watch to see what He will say unto me, and what I shall answer when I am reproved." This scripture is powerful because it highlights the responsibility we have in recognizing God's warnings. Habakkuk understood that he had to be alert, that he had to position himself to hear God clearly. He didn't just wait for God to intervene. He took an active role in watching, in listening, in being prepared for correction. And that is exactly what you must do, because God is always speaking. He is always sending signs. The question is, are you paying attention? Are you standing upon your spiritual tower, watching and listening for His direction? Or are you so entangled in distractions, in worldly desires, in personal emotions that you are missing the very warnings that could save you? Because here's the truth, when you ignore the warnings, you are choosing to walk into danger. And that is a choice you cannot afford to make. But here's the powerful part. When you start recognizing the signs and acting on them, you will see how God moves in your life. The uneasiness you once felt will be replaced with peace. The confusion that clouded your mind will lift. The things that once seemed so tempting will lose their hold on you. Because when you listen to God's warnings, when you take them seriously, He does not just pull you away from danger. He redirects you towards something greater. Doors will start opening that you never expected. Relationships that were draining you will naturally dissolve. Situations that seemed impossible to leave will suddenly become easy to walk away from. That is how divine intervention works. When you obey God's voice, He removes the things that were never meant for you and aligns you with what was always yours. You won't have to force anything. The right opportunities, the right people, the right direction will come into place effortlessly because you are now walking in divine flow instead of fighting against it. So now the choice is yours. Will you continue ignoring the signs, hoping that everything will somehow fix itself? Or will you take responsibility for your spiritual protection and act when God warns you? Because here's what you need to understand. God does not waste warnings. If He is showing you something, it is because it is critical. If He is making you feel uneasy, it is because the situation is dangerous. And the longer you ignore Him, the harder the lesson will become. But you don't have to learn the hard way. You don't have to wait until the damage is done. You can listen now. You can walk away now. You can realign now. If this message is confirming what you already felt in your spirit, comment, "I hear you, God," below. Let it be known that you are listening, that you are awake, that you will not be deceived by distractions. Because once you fully align with God's direction, no trap set against you will prosper. There is one thing that happens when chosen ones ignore God's warnings. And if you don't catch it in time, the consequences can be irreversible. What happens when chosen ones ignore God's warnings? Chosen one, have you ever felt like everything in your life suddenly became more difficult? Like you were walking against the wind, struggling in ways you never had to before? Have you noticed that what once flowed effortlessly now feels blocked? That doors that used to open for you now remain shut? That favor that once followed you seems to have disappeared? This is not a coincidence. This is what happens when a chosen one ignores God's warnings. It does not always happen instantly. Sometimes the drift is slow, almost unnoticeable, until one day you wake up and realize that nothing is the same. What was once a season of blessings has become a season of confusion, struggle, and delay. And the hardest part? Many people don't even realize what's happening until they are drowning in the consequences of their disobedience. The truth is, stepping out of divine alignment is not always about making an obvious, drastic mistake. Most chosen ones don't fall because they deliberately rebel against God's will. They fall because they ignore the signs. They dismiss the warnings. They allow themselves to be distracted, enticed, or deceived by the world. Maybe it was a relationship they knew wasn't aligned with their purpose, but they stayed anyway. Maybe it was a temptation they thought they could handle, but it slowly overtook them. Maybe it was a calling they were supposed to answer, but they kept putting it off, thinking they had more time. And then, little by little, they started walking in their own will instead of God's. First, it doesn't seem like a big deal. Life still moves forward. But what they don't realize is that the moment they stepped outside of divine instruction, they also stepped outside of divine protection. And when you are no longer covered, you become an open target. Battles that were never meant to be yours suddenly start coming against you. Situations that should have been simple become complicated. Doors that were once open slam shut without explanation. The very favor that used to follow you now seems distant. In Zephaniah 1 verse 12, God says, "And it shall come to pass at that time, that I will search Jerusalem with candles, and punish the men that are settled on their lees, that say in their heart, The Lord will not do good, neither will he do evil." This scripture speaks directly to those who become spiritually complacent, those who ignore divine instruction because they assume that everything will continue as usual. But God is clear: when people refuse to listen, when they assume they can walk outside of his will without consequence, the time will come when his patience runs out. And this is what many chosen ones fail to understand. God's warnings are not suggestions. They are not casual advice. They are divine instructions meant to protect you from destruction. When God speaks, when he convicts your heart, when he places a heavy sense of urgency inside of you, it is because something is at stake. And if you refuse to listen, if you delay obedience, the cost will be far greater than you ever imagined. But here is the hope. The moment you recognize that you have drifted, the moment you realize that you have ignored the warnings, you still have a chance to return. And when you do, things will begin to shift again. The same doors that were closed will start to open. The same battles that drained you will start to disappear. The favor that seemed lost will begin to follow you once more. Because God is merciful. He does not want to see you struggle unnecessarily. He does not want to see you fighting battles that were never meant for you. He is waiting for you to turn back, to realign, to surrender to his plan fully. And when you do, the weight you have been carrying will begin to lift. The resistance you've been facing will begin to ease. And suddenly, things will start moving again. Because when you step back into alignment, you also step back into divine protection. So now the question is, what will you do? Will you continue ignoring the warnings, waiting until the consequences become unbearable? Or will you take action now while there is still time? Because the truth is, not everyone recovers from disobedience. Some people never get back what they lost. Some people wait too long and find that the doors they once had access to are now permanently closed. But that does not have to be your story. You still have a chance to realign, to reposition yourself, to step back into your rightful place. If this message is convicting you, if you feel deep in your spirit that God has been trying to get your attention, comment, "I am listening" below. Let it be known that you are done ignoring the signs, that you are ready to obey, that you will not wait until it's too late. Because the moment you choose to listen, the shift begins. And nothing will be able to stop what God is about to do in your life. How to stay on the right path. Have you ever felt like you were walking a fine line, trying to stay true to who you are while the world around you pulls at your focus? You know that sense of clarity you have in the quiet moments, when you feel connected to something greater than yourself. It's in those moments that you understand where you're supposed to be and what you're meant to do. But life doesn't always cooperate. Challenges arise, distractions creep in, and suddenly, that clear path begins to blur. This feeling isn't just your own. It's part of the journey we all face. You're not alone in wondering how to remain steadfast, how to keep that inner connection strong when the noise of the world gets louder. It's not always easy to stay aligned when distractions are everywhere. You might notice the pull of responsibilities, the weight of other people's expectations, or the constant demands of modern life. These distractions, though seemingly minor, can grow into heavy obstacles that cloud your vision. For some, it's the endless cycle of emails, notifications, and tasks that seem urgent but never truly meaningful. For others, it's the voice of self-doubt or fear that whispers, "You can't do this," or "You're not worthy." These challenges chip away at your resolve, making it harder to focus on the things that truly matter. The truth is, the enemy doesn't have to directly attack your purpose. He just has to keep you too distracted to fulfill it. And that's where the real battle lies. Not in catastrophic events, but in the small, daily decisions that can lead you off course. But take heart, because there is a plan in place to keep you grounded. In John 15 verse 5, Jesus reminds us, "I am the vine, you are the branches. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing." This passage reveals a profound truth. Staying connected to your source of strength, remaining in the Word, in prayer, and in faith, ensures that you'll have the guidance and clarity needed to stay on the right path. It's not just about willpower or determination. It's about continually returning to the wellspring of divine wisdom and grace. The world may try to pull you in countless directions, but as long as you stay rooted, you'll find the stability you need to withstand any distraction or temptation. As you stay connected, you'll begin to notice the subtle, yet powerful signs of transformation in your life. Those once overwhelming distractions start to lose their grip. You'll find yourself more attuned to God's voice, more aware of the subtle nudges and warnings that keep you safe. External changes, such as newfound opportunities, supportive relationships, and unexpected breakthroughs, will begin to affirm that you're on the right track. Internally, you'll experience a sense of peace that cannot be shaken, a clarity of purpose that guides your decisions, and a growing confidence that you are equipped to handle whatever comes your way. This is the power of staying aligned. It creates a ripple effect that impacts every part of your life, turning what once felt like a struggle into a steady walk in faith. So, chosen one, the path forward is clear. It's not about striving harder or trying to do everything on your own. It's about staying connected to your source, remaining obedient to the call, and trusting in the divine guidance that never fails. When distractions come, and they will, remember that you have the tools to overcome them. Prayer, discipline, and the Word are your compass, your armor, and your lifeline. Stay vigilant, stay connected, and most importantly, stay faithful. When you do, you'll find that the enemy's schemes lose their power, and the purpose you were created for shines brighter than ever. Trust in the process, trust in God's timing, and watch as the path unfolds before you in ways you never thought possible. Comment, "I am chosen," if this resonates with you. Keep walking forward, confident in who you are and where you are headed. Chosen one, you cannot afford to take this lightly. You have come too far, endured too much, and been prepared for something far greater than what the enemy wants you to see. The battles you have faced were not random. The struggles you overcame were not without purpose. Every test, every attack, every moment of confusion was designed to break you, but it didn't. And that alone should tell you that you are not ordinary. You have been chosen, set apart, and marked by God for something greater. But with that calling comes responsibility, and with that responsibility comes opposition. The enemy knows he cannot stop God's plan for your life, so his only strategy is to get you to stop it yourself, to distract you, to tempt you, to deceive you into stepping out of divine alignment. But today you are being given a choice. Will you stay on course, or will you allow the enemy to rob you of what is rightfully yours? This is why you must remain vigilant. The enemy is not after those who are lost. He is after those who are on the verge of breakthrough. He is after those who carry something powerful inside of them, those who have been positioned for greatness. And that means you. If you have felt like your battles have been unusually intense, if you have experienced delays, confusion, or unexpected opposition, know that it is not because you are losing, it is because you are winning. The closer you get to stepping fully into your purpose, the harder the attacks will come. But they are only an indication that you are on the right path. That is why the enemy is desperate to make you fall, to make you second-guess yourself, to make you believe that what you carry is not as powerful as it truly is. But he is a liar, and the moment you recognize his tactics, the moment you see through the deception, he loses all power over you. Because now you are aware. Now you know exactly what he is trying to do, and now you have the authority to reject it. If you are ready to declare that nothing will stop you, that you are fully aligned, fully prepared, and fully committed to your calling, then comment, "I am chosen" below. Let it be known. Let the enemy see it. Let heaven hear it. Because when you speak it, when you declare it, when you take a stand, everything shifts in your favor. And from this moment forward, nothing will be able to stop what God is about to do in your life.